sweet, sweet song from Millennial Frog, the theme song for Slice of Dice. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a hot minute since we've done one of these episodes. We'll explain that in a few minutes. Today, I'm here with, I'm Josh, in case you forgot. Here with good buddy Frank.
Yo.
Normally the DM, or the God, as we refer to him as. Also, here today with Rueben.
What up?
Rueben. And this is going to be the first... I want to see how this does. I didn't want to go through all of the hassle of making a whole new podcast if this is just going to be whatever. But like, this is going to be like a new episodic segment on A Slice of Dice where we're going to be talking about the lore of things. And it's not just going to be like Warhammer. It'll probably be other stuff, other lore too, for like RPGs, tabletop game, whatever. It'll be other lore. We're probably going to focus primarily at this beginning portion for the first few episodes of this on Warhammer stuff. But anyways, today we're doing Warhammer. I'm calling this the LoreJammer because we're going to jam on some fucking lore. And this is LoreJammer 40K edition. We're going to talk about Necrons. So before we get into it, though, if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Game Rage Magazine. You can follow us at that. Follow that handle on Twitter. Or I'm sorry, Instagram, what's the other one? TikTok, and YouTube, where you can like, follow, comment, subscribe. Also,
hit the bell icon.
What? Hit the bell?
Oh yeah, you don't know about YouTube, so yeah.
What'd you say?
Hit the bell icon.
Yeah, that's the one that gives you notifications, right?
Well, no, you're supposed to click on it if you want to get
notified of new episodes, right?
Because if you just click on it, it just tells you what it wants to tell you. But if you click on it twice, then you can pick what you get notified about.
Oh, that's cool.
And then 2 weeks later, YouTube changes what you said.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you want to follow us on Twitter /X, Game Rage Mag. If you want to follow Frank, you can follow him on anime_syndicate_podcast on Instagram. And you can check out the Anime Syndicate podcast where we talk about anime and stuff. Anyways, all right. So the way we're kind of doing these first probably 6 episodes is this is going to be each of us. Obviously, you guys have seen us go down our Warhammer journey. And part of the reason why we have not done a D&D episode is because we've been taking that time to build and paint our actual Warhammer armies that we've now gotten. So we've kind of just decided to dedicate time into doing that instead of spending, 2 hours playing a D&D session. Eventually, we're going to go back to playing D&D at some point. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but in the meantime, I didn't want to let this podcast die. So that's why we're doing these like LoreJammer things where we're going to talk about lore. So we're going to do, each of us have kind of like 2 factions that we're doing like right now. I'm doing Necrons. So the first episode will be Necrons. Next episode, we'll do Tyranids with Rueben. And then the third episode, we're going to do, he hasn't decided yet. But it's either going to be, we'll leave that as a surprise. We don't even tell you what it's going to be. We'll just leave it as a surprise. We already talked
about the armies I like.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's either going to be Salamanders or Custodes. And then my secondary army that I got going is going to be Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard. And specifically like the Death Corps of Krieg, but I will also, because they're coming out with a new set, we're going to talk all about that shit as well later. Or in those episodes.
The World War I reenactors.
Oh, man, so cool. And then Ruben's secondary army is Orcs. And then eventually, like over time, I would like to get, our kind of plan is to have what?
The look you gave me, like, what?
Isn't that what you said?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just said that look you gave me.
Yeah. I want to ask you.
I thought you said something and I missed it.
This is the look on your, like, what?
What the fuck? Are you high? Like,
I'm the one that's high.
Yeah. So anyways, today, what we're going to do with these is just kind of talk about the lore of the factions. If any. I mean, Tyranids maybe are a little less lore-ish, but maybe talk about the reason why we wanted to play that army, but mainly it's going to be focusing on the lore. So lore is part of the reason why I pick like the armies, like lore and playstyle, right? Those are the 2 things that I looked at primarily. I was like, okay, my first initial attraction does this shit look cool? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because if you got to build it and you got to paint it, you at least want it to like look cool. So I'm like, all right, Necrons caught my eye as being like, oh man, these look pretty cool. I looked into the play style and I'm like, oh, I like this reanimation protocols and all this shit about bringing units back from like the dead, all this stuff, right? Like that's pretty sweet. I like that aspect of it. Also, the tons of units that are available to the Necrons. Like there's a multitude of ways you can build an army with Necrons, as is with most armies, you know. But I just liked the variation in types of units. I just liked a lot about it. And then I started reading on the lore. And man, it is fucking crazy to me, like the Necron lore. The Necron basically originated as a race of actual mortal individuals. Like they were basically like humans, right? And they were called the Necron tier. And they were basically in this section of the fucking galaxy or in whatever the fuck it's called, where there's the stars that they all, or the planets they all lived on, the stars in that section were like super fucking radioactive or super hot, right? So basically their lifespan when they were mortal, they'd live to like at maximum maybe like 40. And everybody died of cancer. Like they all got like super fucking crazy cancers.
Do we really live past 40?
Not really. I mean, like it's not like they're missing out on much. That's when all the shit starts going haywire anyways, right? So that's
when the extended warranty doesn't kick in.
Yeah, exactly. They cancel our extended warranty. So what's funny though is that all happened. That stuff is going on 65 million years before the Imperium of Man. Like this is the current 40K like timeline, or in the year 40,000 or whatever, right?
I don't even think Earth was formed yet.
No, this was 65 million years prior is when the Necrotier had been around. And so, and really it was probably even longer than that, because it was 65 million years ago that they
became Necrons
essentially.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is they kind of like have this like death cultishness about them, because obviously they have
Warhammer. Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. They have short lives, all that kind of stuff. So they end up having this issue with these group of like gods or whatever. They're called the old. They just call, I don't know if they're gods, but they call them the old ones. And they end up getting embroiled in this war, which is a war that ends up happening between these old ones and then this race of beings known as the Catan. And essentially the Catan decide, hey, they go to the Necrons or the Necron tier and they tell them like, hey man, like we can help you guys. Like we can make your mortality issues go away. But in, basically in return, like you got to fight these old ones for us. So, the Necron tier there's been multiple dynasties going on throughout this time frame. You had the Sawtek, you had the Zarakin dynasty, you had the Miltic dynasty. There's like 5 major dynasties that were kind of going on at this time when they were still mortal. And they were kind of like infighting amongst each other as to who was like the top dog. Well, the Silent King, who is Zarek, the Silent King, right? He comes in and says like, hey guys, I got this deal with these guys called the Catan, and they said they can fucking basically make us immortal so we'll never die. And we can what?
Do you think their civilization lasted so long because nobody over the age of 40 was leading them?
Probably. That's probably exactly why. So then what they end up doing is it gets everybody together. They end up making this deal where they are going to essentially leave behind their mortal shell and be turned into
metal shells.
Yeah, metal shells. So, Jesus Christ, cat. So essentially, they agree to do this shit. All the lower people end up getting turned into like the warriors and like whatever. The higher little warriors end up becoming immortals. There's a lot of different things that they end up getting turned into. The overlords are like the people. Overlord and higher in the Necron deal are people who were like royalty or whatever, like the royal.
Who did the Silent King turn into?
He turned into Zarek, the Silent King, right? He turned into his own fucking thing. Like his model, and this is what's crazy is there's not any book specific about him yet. There's one that's coming out that's the end of the Termit or Indomitus crusade, which was the one that I think the Blood Angels were fighting against a bunch of different other like people, and then I think the Silent King in this upcoming book is going to be a part of the book, but he doesn't have like his own specific like book. It's all talked about like in other, because the Necrons don't have a shit ton of books either. The Necrons have like of major series that are like good. There's basically two. There's the Twice Dead King, which is a 2-book series, and then there's the Infinite and the Divine, which I'm going to talk about, which is great because it talks about these two fucking characters, Traz and the Infinite and Oric and the Diviner. And man, it's a great fucking book. But anyways, so is the Twice Dead King. I would highly recommend them if you're into Necrons and you haven't read them. They're great lore book. They're great lore drops. It's like massive lore drops in the Twice Dead King for sure. And there's probably even more lore that gets dropped in the Infinite and the Divine. But anyways, Zarek the Silent King gets everybody together, and the reason he becomes the Silent King is because he realizes the second he got it's called biotransference when they went from being mortals to the metal Necrons that we know, right? When they underwent biotransference, the second it happened, he realized that they got fucking duped by the Catan and that they got tricked. Because essentially the Catan are these beings that go around and they essentially survive off of eating the souls, the life soul of mortals. That's how they live. So they convinced people so that's what they did. They convinced them to go undergo this thing so they could like feed. And so they could also use these guys, the Necrons, as their bidding to fight the old ones, which were their like enemy, right? So the Silent King is like, fuck man, I fucked up. Like now I got to make this right. So his whole thing is like, all right, guys, we're going to go and fight the old ones and we're going to defeat them. That's going to be our main objective. We're going to fight them and we're going to beat them off, literally. You've got also at this time period, the Eldari or the Eldar. They are also followers of the old ones. Like those are their gods, right?
So they created a new one.
What?
So they created a new one.
Well, what's crazy is, okay, chaos and the warp did not exist until the fucking Necrons killed the old ones until they defeated them, and then they enslaved the Catan, right? So I'm getting ahead of myself, but so then when we get the battle between the old ones and the Necrons eventually defeat them. And they're also fighting against the Eldar and shit. And then the Necrons realize that their dominance in the galaxy, because this war takes fucking like a couple million years or whatever, right, to like go through. So they realize that their time in the galaxy, like they figure out that time is like goes through ages or cycles. And they see now that their cycle in the galaxy of being dominant is going to end. It's going to come down. And the Eldar are going to be the next one. And then it lasts for however long. And then like the orcs, every single race gets its time of being like the dominant one. In 40,000, it's the Imperium of Man is the dominant one, but it's fractured and so crazy because there's a bunch of factions that are already vying for that spot. So it's like, that's why it's all crazy. So when you got the Necrons defeating the old ones, they say, all right, Zarek says, I need to get this shit. I need to pay everybody back for what I fucked up and I made everybody do this. So now I'm going to get payback. So they end up enslaving the Catan. They fight the Catan and defeat them and end up turning them they enslave them. And they broke them up into little shards. And so there's little shards of them that are these like insanely powerful things. And so there's 3 of them that you can use in game. You have the Shard of the Nightbringer, the Shard of, I think it's the Shard of Darkness is the other one, and then you have the Shard of the Void Dragon. And they're like models that you can actually use like in the game, right? It's kind of cool. They're pretty powerful, and in lore, those shards are like the most powerful like things that exist or whatever. And so after they enslave the Catan, Zarek says, our time is basically ending, so we need to put everyone into like stasis or put everybody into sleeps. So they build these tomb worlds, and that's where we have all these fucking like, because the Necrons were like, they were in the quadrillions. Like there were so many of them, right? So they put them all into these tomb worlds, and then they say like, okay, everyone's gonna go basically to like the Great Sleep or whatever that they call it, where when our time in the galaxy is gonna rise again, we'll wake everyone up. And then we'll take our time as being the top species. And then when our time starts to fall again, we'll all go back into fucking sleep because they can do that. So most Necrons have been asleep for 65 million years. They've been like just in stasis or whatever. And so they've left a couple, they leave a couple of them sentient and open to like, guard the worlds and stuff. And there have been incursions that have taken place that tomb worlds are just lost while they sleep. One of the unique things about the Necrons is when one of their things dies, because they don't have a soul, quote unquote, but they have their consciousness still. But they're like, their soul is gone. And so their consciousness just gets transferred back to the hub, and then a new one gets made, and then they can just keep infinitely coming, basically.
Right.
So essentially, Zarek says, we're all going to do that. And then he decides, okay, now I need to fuck off. And so he releases all of the command protocols over all of his followers and releases them from like his service. And then he just fucks off and disappears. And now he like in lore, he's like coming back or whatever, I think in the books, because it's not out yet. So like, I don't know what's exactly going to happen, but they said that, the Silent King is going to be like a major antagonist or whatever in this book. So, and it's the final book of that Indominus Crusade or whatever. So I don't know. It's like 9 fucking books. And this is it's the last one. And the Silent King is the first time he appears in it. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go down or whatever there, because you know how they're bringing back Primarchs and shit. So like, the Silent King has existed as a model for, I don't know, a little while. I think it's the ninth edition is when they put him out. And so it's a cool ass model. I want to get it and add it to my army because it's sweet as shit. But fuck, man, it's like basically a combat patrol. What?
No wonder why he has hip problems.
Why? Oh, because of the way he sleeps?
Look at that shit.
Yeah, he's crazy. Hey, whatever's comfortable, I guess, right? So anyways, so we get them going basically to, they decide, okay, go to sleep, and then they come back. So now we have in like the current setup.
It wasn't their time, so they're just being brutally awakened by outside activity, right? Yeah,
so like what ended up happening is over the years they decided, okay, we're like losing worlds because like humans are finding them, and then they're like exterminating them and destroying them. So like, because the process of waking up, that's the crazy thing is Necrons with time, like their time is like skewed compared to like ours. Right. So they look at like, it's 10,000 years. They look at that as like, that's like 10 hours or whatever, or 10 days, right? They're like, 10,000 years. That's like no time at all to them because they're like eternal or whatever. So they say, hey, you know what? Like, so I think it takes like a couple centuries to like start waking up the world. But by that time, the humans would have destroyed it, right? So what they do is they say, okay, we need to keep some of us out, and then some of them do just wake up. Like there's this thing where you just like wake up randomly, and now you're up, and you won't go back into stasis or whatever, I guess. So that's how you get a lot of them that are out now. And then they've got this like council that exists that kind of governs it a little bit. And basically each dynasty kind of operates independently of itself, but also assists each other when there's a problem. So like if the humans are going to fuck up, say, one of their worlds where they got a tomb thing on and they can't wake it up in time, oh man, we need to stop these humans because let's say there's something or someone important on there that they need to hold, or they need to make sure this thing stays alive. So they need to fuck or can't get destroyed. So they're like, hey, we need to like, stop this shit. So they'll band together. But the problem is there's just like not enough of them. That's like the difference is like there's not enough of them to be fully a major faction, I guess. Their shit's powerful, so like that's how they're able to maintain relevance and be a factor in the narrative, because there may not be a lot of them by number as opposed to like Tyranids or how many orcs are out there or how many fucking humans there are. But they have certain powerful things that make that kind of equalized a little bit. Yeah.
When they die in stasis, does their conscience still get uploaded?
No, so that's why like they've lost like a lot, because like worlds they said like, like a sun will go supernova and we'll lose a fucking whole tomb world and everything that was there, it's gone.
Right.
Like so because like the tomb world is the hub or whatever. And so like there's spots in the galaxy where like there's no signal to the Tomb World. So like there are places they can go that if you die, like that's it. Like you can't get beamed back. Now they make them like portable so they could take them on ships and shit. So like if you're close enough to like your ship that has it, you could reanimate or whatever. But if you're in one of these, sections, like if you're on a planet that's kind of distant, well, shit, there's nothing around there that can upload your consciousness. And they're like, oh, fuck, we couldn't get there in time because, it takes time. And then we talk about like the warp or whatever. What's crazy is like the Eldar created the webway or whatever, which was like the precursor to the warp. And it wasn't in quote unquote like warp space. It's like it exists inside of it, but it's its own tunnels that like the demons and all that shit can't get into. And so it's crazy how once the Necrons defeated the old ones,
the Emperor almost perfected.
Yeah.
Which is the saddest part of it all.
Yeah, it is. Because then this would have been like...
Because the webway got destroyed when he was working on it, and they was Sanguinius found out about the heresy.
Yeah.
And tried to telepathically tell the Emperor about it. And when the Emperor received the message, that's what caused the webway to explode.
Yeah.
And thus creating the warp.
Right. And so then there's the warp already existed.
I would say it would have existed in order to corrupt Horus.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it already existed, right? But the warpway got injured is like probably the right word. It didn't get completely destroyed, but it got like injured because it still exists, and the Necrons actually utilize that to travel. And they're like the Eldar are trying to fix parts of it, like currently in the lore or whatever, and they have been because they don't want to travel within the warp because obviously you get attacked by fucking everything that's in there. So that's why they still have like the webway or whatever. And so the Necrons use that to travel as well, and they've been reconnecting spots to like make the pathways between their worlds so they don't have to travel within the warp or whatever. So. It's very interesting, and there's a lot of cool characters in in terms of like the models and stuff like which you can use in the game. There we go. So it's really cool. I enjoy, like I said, the lore of it, the play style. Again, we've been just building models and like painting them, so we haven't even actually played the game yet. But obviously, I read the codex, I watched videos on how they play, and like, okay, cool, like I get the concept of it, and cool, I like the play style. So, but most importantly, I think lore is like one of the main reasons to like pick a faction or whatever. And what's cool is there's like, and that's the thing. A lot of people, and then listen, this shit is fucking expensive, right? And that's probably the primary barrier for people to not be building 2,000 point armies in like every fucking faction. I think it would be cool if we could have like eventually like, every combat patrol or whatever that exists, to have every faction available to where like, if we wanted to try it out, like, we could, right? Like you could just try it out. Cause again, like talking about Sanguinius or whatever. I've been looking at Blood Angels. I think their play style is pretty fucking cool. And I like red. So like, obviously that fits with my motif. Also the Death Company thing is fucking sweet as shit. So
once again, you're always drawn to factions.
Yeah.
Where you're evil or some kind of asshole.
Yeah.
And you're going with the Blood Angels to have the Blood Rage.
Right. Yeah. And that's what the Death Company is. It's guys that are like in the Death Rage or whatever, and they just send them on suicide missions. So, yeah. Again, World Eaters are cool too for like a Chaos faction. I like their play style and the way they look. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, right now it's Necrons, and then it's going to be Astra Militarum. Like I'm fleshing out my Necron army in terms of what I have. I think I have fucking probably close to like 1,000 points right now of shit, but I need to obviously get up to 2,000. So those are the shit that I gotta get. So once I get to, the new Krieg thing is coming out in January, supposedly. So I'm gonna buy that because I need to have that. Because then, dude, that's the one thing I don't fucking get. Okay, scalpers for Warhammer stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. the reason why these boxes sell out quick is because they're a discount. So like there's one for the Astra Militarum. It's the Cadian Defense Force. All right. Mm-hmm. So I priced it out. Okay. And when it was last part of the 2023 Christmas Battle Force sets. Okay. Mm-hmm. When it came out brand new, it was 200 and like, if you could get it on the discount sites for like, I think it was like it was $180 or $88 you could get it for. 180, 190 maybe. Yeah, 190. Where you could get it for on the discount ones. Okay. Brand new from Games Workshop, I think it was like 220 or 230 or something like that. So those still exist out there, right? And people are selling them on eBay for like $400 or $500. I priced out the models because it's not giving you anything other than just the models that already exist. It's just putting them in a box and selling them to you for cheaper than it's got 2 Rogel Dorn tanks and it's got 20 Cadian shock troopers. Okay, that's what's in the fucking box. Okay, the Rogel Dorn tanks retail from Games Workshop, they're like 110 or 120 a piece. You can get them on Amazon for like $89. So okay, you price that with the 2 Canadian, the 20 Cadians. That's like you're looking at close to like $300, right? For the box. Now, if you buy it on discount, you're getting it for like $180. Okay, cool. When it first comes out. But why do you think some asshole is going to buy that on eBay for $450 when they could literally just go on Amazon and buy all the models that come in the box separately? And it's only like, it's like $300. It's like $150 cheaper. Why would I not do that? And what's funny is I've looked at those things. They've been up there for like a year because no one's buying them. And I'm like, yeah, if you wanted to sell it for maybe like $280, I think some people will buy it because it's like, cool, you're still saving a little bit, but you're getting it all in one package and then it's just coming, right? Mm-hmm. You're saving a little bit. Okay, because retail on it from Amazon's like $300. Same thing with the Necrons, the Hypercrypt Legion that just came out for the Christmas 2024 Battle Forces. I bought that. Retail from Games Workshop, it was selling for $240. I found it on one of the discount sites as they were refilling pre-orders for $204. Now, when I priced out the shit that comes inside of it individually on Amazon, because if I'm going to buy it individually, so all the stuff's available individually, nothing's like exclusive, right, to the box. It's just all shit you can buy. It came out to like $286. I'm like, well, shit, if I buy it from Games Workshop, I'm only saving $46. And you got to wait until it comes out. Because this was the beginning of November when I was going to do this. And I was like, well, I got to wait until the end of the month when you can actually pre-order it. And it doesn't even come out until the first week of December when they're going to send it to you. So like, I could just buy all that shit now for an extra $40 and just have it now. Right. So I'm like, okay, but when I saw it up for $204, what the discounters were selling it for, I'm like, okay, now I'm saving $80, $82 or whatever. So like, now it's a little more worth it to just wait until fucking the beginning of December. Because now $82, well, shit, I could buy. Well, that's what I ended up doing with the $82 savings. Instead of buying the units individually, I basically just bought the Catacomb command barge, and then I bought the Ghost. Well, it's called Ghost Arc, but there's another one that has the gun on it. Mm-hmm. I bought those two because they were on Amazon. It was like $85 for the both of them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh, cool. Like, so I just took my savings and was able to get extra shit out of it. So then it was worth it to wait. And so like with this new Death Korps of Krieg thing, we're going to do the Death Korps of Krieg episode before obviously the end of the year, but before that comes out, it'll probably actually be right around the time that comes out in the beginning of January, is when we'll do that episode. But like, I don't know what the price is going to be on that. And so none of those units exist currently right now individually. You can't buy them individually. Individually. So who the fuck knows? But yeah, anyways, Necrons are pretty sweet. And, I think they're pretty cool. I don't know. I just talked for like half an hour about fucking Necrons. So anyways, you got anything else, Dad? No? Ruben's been asleep. So anyways, all right. Well, I guess we'll call it a wrap here. I put his ass to sleep with Necron lore. Anyways, if you want to listen to more, also like, if you like this, drop us a line on YouTube. Drop us a fucking line on Instagram or TikTok or fucking Twitter if you enjoy hearing us talk about lore, because that's like what this is going to... Slice of Dice is not just going to become that, but these subsections of what I'm just dubbing LoreJammer, because we're going to just jam in lore, and we're jamming to lore.
Every time you say that, just keep thinking of Spelljammer.
It was Spelljammer, the card from Yu-Gi-Oh? Yeah. LoreJammer 40K edition. So And like I said, it's kind of cool too because we could also talk like D&D lore. We could talk like, shit. There's plenty of lore we could talk about for other shit if we felt like it. But right now, like I said, it's probably gonna focus on Warhammer. I wanted to call it LoreJammer, but that's fucking taken already. And like, I don't want to get fucked with. I don't need anybody hitting us up and telling us to stop using their name if they have it copyrighted and shit.
Lore Wars.
I don't know. LoreJammer was cool because I like that sound of Warhammer, like that sound. But LoreJammer like goes with it, so I don't know. So, anyways. That's what we're calling it for now, and that's just how we're gonna do it. So stay tuned next week for probably Tyranids, because Ruben's gonna do his, and then motherfucker better come with fucking correct. All right, better not be falling asleep during his own episode. All right. But anyways, so that'll be that. Go check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X Game Rage Mag. You can follow Frank at anime_syndicate_podcast. And that will probably be the end of it here. So thank you guys for checking it out, and we'll catch you guys on.
It's time to do.
I just had to throw that in there. Anyways, we'll catch you guys on the next one.